Okay, last week we talked about summarizing with the Cuban Missile Crisis. So we discovered that there are some things that we know about summarizing, and then there are some things that we can do in order to help ourselves summarize. There were 7 things that we rehearsed as a class. Number 1 was that a summary should be much shorter than the original. Number 2, it should include some of your own words. Number 3, it's always going to mention the topic. Number 4, it contains ideas most important to not you, but the author. Number 5, it contains those ideas you need to study. 6, it uses the author's structure, which is a shape an author uses to put ideas together in a text. And number 7, it sums up all the remaining sentences. Okay, so what do you remember? What's the first one? A summary is blank than the original. Shorter. Good. It includes what? Some of your own words. It always mentions what? The topic. It contains ideas important to whom? Not you, but the author. It contains the ideas you need to study. It uses the author's what? Structure. And the last one, it sums up all remaining sentences. So the next part, we've talked a little bit about things we know and we've rehearsed them together. Now we need to focus in on those things we can do to help ourselves learn to write a decent summary. This method is called GIST, generating interactions between schema and text, and that just means making a connection between what's in this article and what is already in your mind.
Okay, the steps are: delete unnecessary or repetitious material, collapse details into broader categories, find key ideas, and use the author's structure. When you're looking for the most important parts of an informational piece of text, there are some things within there that you don't need to capture, you don't need to repeat. They're either going to be just not really necessary to the main ideas of the piece, or they're going to be something that is repeated over and over again, the same idea, so you can get rid of them. All right? So delete unnecessary or repetitious material, collapse details and examples into broader categories. If you, for example, are reading a piece about mummies and you find that the author talks about all the different things that a mummy would have buried with him. A favorite tool. For children, it was a toy. A favorite pet, a spear, water. Sometimes they buried water and food with them, believing that they would have thirst and hunger in the afterlife. Who knows? But all of these things can be captured into one overarching idea. Okay, so instead of saying this, they buried this, and this with the mummies, you can just say that either favorite items or items necessary for the afterlife were buried with them. You still know some of the items that were buried with them, but in terms of our summary, in terms of really condensing it down to the most important ideas, the most important words, you've taken out 20 or 30 words from the piece to just use maybe 10. Okay? So we've talked about deleting unnecessary or repetitious material. We've talked about collapsing details or examples into broader categories. Now we're going to be talking about finding key ideas, okay? These are the ideas that the author is putting forth as the most important in the piece. So as you read, just like you can be a detective or a news reporter, and you can think to yourself, okay, what are the main things I need to know? As in, if you're thinking about a news story, you're going to go with the who, what, where, when, why, and how. So as you're looking and as you're reading, as you're thinking, be on the lookout for the sentences that answer these questions about the piece that you're reading, because those are going to be your key ideas to save for later. And the last part is to use the author's structure. Now what this means is that you need to know a little bit about structure. Okay, so structure can be description, where you're just describing something. A subcategory of description is actually called enumeration, and that's where simply you just have a list of things that the author wants to tell you, and he uses numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, the author can also use a structure called comparison contrast, where you're looking at two different concepts or ideas, and you're talking about what's similar and what's different between them. Chronological order is another structure, and that's just simply sequence, where you're talking about things in terms of a sequence or time. Another one is problem and solution. That kind of explains itself, where the author holds up a particular problem and then talks about a solution for that problem. And the last one is cause and effect, and this is where the author discusses a particular phenomenon.